Fala galera, vamos falar do vídeo dos Nerf e Buff aqui, dos vídeos dos Devin, falando um pouco sobre as armas do New World, tá? Como que vai ser o balanceamento. E já comecei como, ó, nem coloquei o vídeo, eles já começaram a falar da minha Bacamarte. Vai ser nerfado de novo, pô, eu não aguento mais, mano. Faz um ano que saiu, só é Nerf. Porra, mano.
In quotations, if you know what I mean, are pulling off here with the blunderbuss. Those are things we did not anticipate as a part of the design, and it would not surprise me when you load up.
Pet mensal?
Those combos are no.
Ah não, mano, já vai vir? Não!
Welcome to Fortune Eternum, where we talk about all things New World. Today we have another episode of Balance of Power. It's actually episode 5. Today we're going to talk about the Season 2 balance and any adjustments we might be making now that we've seen Season 2 live a little bit for our monthly balance patch. So take it away with some questions, Michael.
All right, so overall, how are you feeling about balance? Let's break it down per mode and start with OPR.
I think OPR is sort of a tale of two cities type thing. There's some good news and some bad news. The good news is I think weapon balance is actually in a really good place. What we're seeing is very even distribution of weapons used. Almost every weapon is used, and it's used in very equal rates. We're seeing win rates all very close to each other. I actually think within 1.1% from best to worst weapons, so best balance by far. Damage is also good. There is a little bit of an advantage for ranged in terms of damage, but kill distribution looks good. So overall, weapon balance I think looks really, really good.
Ele não vou nerfar o arco! Não, pera.
I do think there are some issues. I think we've all played it, and there are some stops sometimes. And I think what we're seeing is that the distribution of quality matches is, wider than we want.
Parece que na gringa eles não estão usando muito arco, então, mano.
It goes to like 99 versus 1,000, and it's like, an epic Baroness capture changes it. But we are seeing some on the other side, and I think it's not a balance problem. It is a matchmaking problem, and we are aware of this. We talked a little bit about this in the community Q&A. We are starting to.
Tá tendo um bom equilíbrio de todas as armas. Eu acho que é mais no SA que tá tendo muito arco, mano.
There's a lot of them, so we're working on it, but it's going to take a little while to get it out to players.
And what about arenas and war?
In terms of arenas, we're seeing pretty good distribution in weapon usage also. I think there's some that aren't being used a ton. Musket, for instance, is not used a ton in arenas.
Mosquete não é muito usado, mas também, né?
To really capture the benefits of that weapon. We're seeing Void Gauntlet not super used, and surprisingly, Blunderbuss is not that used because it's actually doing pretty well. In terms of win rates, it's relatively well distributed. There's two builds that are sort of have higher win rates than sort of like the deviation we'd want. We'll talk a little bit about those. And in terms of performance, I think damage and kills all look relatively well distributed.
Então, ele tá tendo um pouco mais de arco, mas tipo, as mortes das armas ranged e as mortes das armas melee estão igual o pessoal que mata de range de melee, tá ligado? Porque a maioria que tá jogando de arco não tá matando tanto, né, mano? Mas...
Nothing outlining that we're too concerned about. But in terms of builds, we are seeing a little bit more strength from the Firestaff Ice Gauntlet build than some of the other builds. And a new and up-and-comer is Sword and Shield and Spear.
Ih, espada, escudo e lança.
It being played a lot more since the Season 2 patch, and we're seeing the win rates of that go up. So that's something we've definitely got our eyes on.
Mano, espada, escudo e lança pode ser nerfado, tá, gente?
Any general combat balance updates planned for the monthly balance patch?
Yeah, there's 3. The first one is interesting because it's actually the result of a bug. If you played at the start, of the season, you'll have remembered that Hale and Hardy, we were removing
Não, tá falando do bug de HP, mano. Que não bug, né? Que o buff continuou.
And I was actually one of those people also when I played. And I played a couple matches, and I think the overwhelming feedback from people who got both was that the game felt better with a little more HP. that time to kill felt more appropriate. It helped fight some of the burstiness of some of the combos. It helped fight some of the ticking damage of some of the weapons, and in general, it just played better. So we are going to be making some adjustments to HP in Season 2. We're still finalizing how we're going to do that. I think we're going to do it like when you invest.
Galera, o que vai acontecer? Nós tava pegando 2 buffs de HP, porque eles mudaram o HP e ganhava mais HP da cidade, tá? E, incrível que pareça, esses 2 dias, 3 dias de dados que nós tava com HP muito mais alto, foi muito bom. Tá ligado? Os dados que eles receberam foi muito bom. De não tá tendo combo, do pessoal tá trocando mais PVP sincero. E o range de não tá matando tanto. Tava muito bom. Aí, eles estão pensando em aumentar o HP já nesse mês aí, que vai entrar em agosto. Aumentar um pouco mais de HP pra forçar o pessoal em mais de melee no PR e que os dados tava sendo bem melhor, tá? E quem lembra também, esses 2, 3 dias, teve muito mais gente jogando melee também por causa desse buff a mais de com, porque tava muito forte. É onde que eu acho que eles podem tentar dar um buff de novo no HP a mais pra forçar o pessoal a jogar mais com outras classes também no Outpost. Não só pro Outpost, em geral teve um dados melhores, né? Quem tem dados, né?
That'll also help people sort of move away from some of the glass cannon builds. So that is a change that we're pretty excited about. Second change is a little bit drastic, but I think it's a healthy thing for the game. We're going to be swapping the 150 and 300 dex attribute bonus. I think the reduced cost of dodging is probably one of the strongest ATBs, attribute threshold.
Boa, linda, linda! Linda! Galera, eles vão trocar o bônus dos 150 de Dex e o bônus de 300 de Dex, tá? Que o pessoal usa muito mesmo.
To really get that. A third smaller change, but we think a good one. This one we're going to really try to get done for the monthly. There's a chance it doesn't make it because there's a large amount of data that has to change to make this happen. But we don't want the Fortify buff to count towards Invigorated Punishment. So that's something we're looking to change also.
All right. What about specific weapons? Like, are there any changes there? Like starting with Sword and Shield.
So Sword and Shield we do think is slightly overperforming, especially at high level PvP. It's got a great combination of a gap closer, a really powerful stun, pretty good damage, and the stickiness of it is really
Nerfa.
Making it really strong. I think what we're planning to do for the monthly patch is take a look at the Achilles heel passive and move that from slowing down the enemy to rending them. I think that'll help fight this.
Eu vou dar uma nerfadinha no espada e escudo, mano.
We're also aware of a bug with concussive bash and how freedom is not impacting it. Unfortunately, it's a pretty tricky bug with some code in a dangerous code path. So we're not going to make that change for the monthly, but it is on our radar and will likely be fixed for Season 3.
All right, well, what about the other...
Mano, eles estão sendo bem sinceros, tá ligado? Eles falou que sabe do bug que tá tendo, que não tá pegando liberdade em tal skill, mas eles estão sendo bem sinceros que estão tentando corrigir, mas não estão conseguindo, tá ligado? Isso é muito bom, cara. Pelo menos agora, já faz um ano aí que eles estão jogando a realidade, tá ligado?
That's getting a lot of play. The Spear.
The Spear, yeah. Now, the Spear is an interesting one. Like I said, it's become very popular.
John, eu achei que era normal, nem sabia que é bug, eu também.
In arenas, that's been strong. It's also getting some play in OPR. And it's interesting because it also complements dex builds like the bow really well. We've buffed this weapon a couple times in the last 2 seasons, and I think people are catching up with all the buffs and finding out how to get more power out of it. I think Cyclone in specific is we think a little bit too strong. It's AoE, it has grit, it has good damage, and it has a huge slow. I think that's just a little too much. What we're probably
galera, como vocês viram, o Ciclone tá muito forte. Todo mundo tá usando de lança o Ciclone. Então eles pretendem dar uma nerfada no Ciclone da lança, tá? Tá muito forte, mano. Vamos falar o que for. Puta merda, como tá forte.
The Cyclone Leeching Weapon perk upgrade. Right now, you can go into big clumps and like get all your life back. We'll likely limit the number of people that you can life steal from in one activation on that to help balance that also.
What about the Fire Staff?
Os bombeiros é os cajados de fogo, tá, mano?
I think, you know, slightly elevated win rates in OPR. In Arena. In OPR, it's doing fine. We are seeing a little more damage from it than other weapons. But the kills that it's receiving aren't, you know, out of distribution. So it's doing a lot of damage, but not really moving the needle in terms of wins or kills. So we think it's in an okay place. We're going to
o cajado de fogo eu acho legal, mano.
Damage over time. I think, you know, between Kindle, the stacks that it's getting, again, the burning rings, like that combo is producing a lot of damage over time. We got our eye on it, but no changes planned for the monthly.
Nenhuma mudança. O arco.
Bo's in the same place. I think Bo's in an even better place in terms of balance than Fire Staff. I think it's in a good place.
Não, mano!
We've all met the really good players that make the Bo seem like it's broken, but like, you know, those are really good players, and good players can do those sorts of things. But I think Bo overall is in a good place. We are aware of the bug with elemental damage not getting damage fall off applied. That's something that, again, unfortunately, is a little too risky to fix in a monthly. In monthlies, we try to stick to, you know, data changes and very simple code changes. This actually is a somewhat complex code change. So we won't get it in for the monthly, but that is something we know is happening and will likely be fixed in Season 3.
Well, what about the Blunderbuss?
Our favorite little bursty weapon here.
Mano, minha vaca Marte.
Combos that experts, in quotations, if you know what I mean, are pulling off here with the Blunderbuss. Those are things we did not anticipate as a part of the design, and it would not surprise me when you load up the monthly patch if those combos.
Cara, beleza. Quer nerfar a vaca Marte? Nerfa, diminui o dano dos combos. Mas, por favor, diminui o CD das skills. Só isso, velho. Eu não ligo de bater menos, mas diminui o CD das skills. Tá? Já tá ótimo. Na verdade, eu acho que se diminuir o CD das skills e diminuir um pouco o dano, eu vou ficar mais forte ainda, mano.
And last but not least, what about Heart Runes?
As runas do coração agora. A runa Detonate ainda sentimos. Acho que estamos vendo aqui um pico de detonação do coração. Como uma média, está tudo mais. As pessoas têm configurado que estão causando muito dano.
Crit damage, crit bonuses. So I think what we're going to do, we don't want to change the base or the range because we like how it plays in general. But what we're going to do is eliminate the ability for this Heart Rune to crit. And we think that'll sort of like normalize the distribution of damage and make this weapon feel still really strong, but not as spiky.
So I did have a few questions from the community if you're up for that.
Let's go for it.
Great. So this is when I asked for the community Q&A questions, they had some for this. Are there plans to adjust underwhelming attribute breakpoint perks alongside the other perk adjustments for Season 3? I would love to see some mana management incentives for intelligence builds and block incentives for constitution builds.
Sim, eles vão dar uma nerfada na runa de explosão.
We're still focused on Season 2, but I think it's very fair to say that the ATB's attribute threshold bonuses will see major reworks. We will move things around. In fact, this dex change that we're doing in this monthly patch was originally planned for the Season 3. There will be other moves like that. We're going to be taking some of the bonuses that we don't feel are strong and removing them. And there's going to be some new ones.
Ó, galera, mais informação para a segunda temporada, tá, gente? Eles vão fazer novos bônus para os atributos de força, dex, com, int. E vão remover alguns que eles consideram fracos, tá? Então quer dizer que os bônus, eles pretendem deixar os bônus de mais forte, tá ligado?
Slight little hint on fun stuff coming up. There might even be a new level
pra terceira temporada.
ATBs and another way to dip your toes in. So big changes coming to this in Season 3.
And can we expect to see further balance passes on some Fortify? The lack of consistency has confused me, and some things like Fort Sacred and Shirking Fort still feel like they could use some tuning.
Yeah, I think there definitely are still some inconsistencies. I saw a really nice spreadsheet someone put together on this, and we're aware of this. I think we're gonna be looking into this.
Cara,
I don't think it's gonna make the month.
que nem o pessoal não tá gostando muito do fortificado. Cara, eu acho que apenas eles tirando a punição saudável de pegar o fortification, que nem estão tentando fazer, já resolve o problema do fortification, tá?
Bounce patch. We've got a lot on our plate with season 3, so it may or may not make it, but we're aware of it. We don't think there's any ones that are sort of really game breaking.
Jonas, você acha que eles vão nerfar a Bacamarte? Cara, eu acho que vai ter... Algumas habilidades delas vão ser feitas de novo, tá ligado? Eles vão mudar algumas habilidades da Bacamarte, sim, mano. Eu não acho que vão nerfar mais. Vão nerfar, mas eles não querem combo de hit kill, igual eu tava fazendo, né? Mas eu creio que ou eles vão dar uma recapada na Bacamarte. John, mas as Bacamarte é tão forte assim, cara. No Brasil, ninguém usa direito, mas na gringa, usam muito Bacamarte, velho. Muito assim. Usa legal. Quem sabe jogar dá combo de hit kill, tá ligado? Mas é uma arma bem difícil. Mas a maioria que sabe jogar, mata bastante. Eu acho que eles vão meio que diminuir o dano e diminuir o CD das skills ou fazer algumas skills novas, tá ligado? Então, a Bacamarte tá forte sim, mano. Tá forte sim. É que você vê pouca Bacamarte e você vê pouca gente jogando bem de Bacamarte. Acontece.
Mostly up some of the fortifies that didn't get adjusted enough when we made the change to the fortify calculation.
Well, I think that's it. I think we're good.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today in Balance of Power. We do have a community question. So what I'd love to hear from you all is what is the bug that most bugs you that you see in combat? We talked about 2 that I'm aware of. I'm sure there's plenty more. The concussive bash now being affected by freedom, and the damage fall off on elemental damage and bows. Like, what are your bugs that you're like, David?
Mas eles aumentar... Gente, mas eles aumentar a vida, igual tava nos 3 primeiros dias de jogo da segunda temporada, já vai dar uma quebrada legal no OPR de arco e de mago, tá, mano? E já vai vir gente, vai aparecer mais melee, tá? Então, vai ter algumas mudanças aí, mano. Eles pretendem aumentar mais a vida do pessoal porque foi muito bom os primeiros dias, tá? De patch aí, com a vida do pessoal alta. Então, isso daí vai ajudar bastante. Tanto, eu acho que o que vai mais sentir na hora que aumentar a vida é arco e cajado de fogo, é o que mais vai sentir. Espadão e machadinha, eles vão sentir mais na hora de bater, mas não na hora de receber o dano. Né? Porque eles não usam muita com. E o espadão e machadinha vai sentir bastante na hora que eles mudar os 150 de Dex e os 400 e os 300 de Dex, que faz dar o 150 faz dar uma esquiva a mais, né? De Dex. Você ganha mais 10 de estamina. Então eles vão tirar. Isso daí vai mudar bastante pro pessoal, tá, gente? É isso, galera. Videozinho dos Devin.